Chapter 1059. After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang did not look at Bloody Rose. At this moment, Bloody Rose was like a clown. She was too lazy to pay attention to her. Raising her phoenix-like eyes slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching. She came here today for the challenge tournament. But the sudden appearance of Bloody Rose delayed her plan. Now it was time to continue the battle. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Bewitching immediately understood and nodded immediately. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her beautiful face was even more beautiful. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's tacit understanding, Bloody Rose was even more jealous. Ordinary people would not have this kind of tacit understanding at all. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang went directly to the arena. Her indifferent eyes glanced at the practitioners present and said, "Who wants to come up?" As soon as she said that, the practitioners present could not help but be stunned. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to go to the arena at this moment. They could not defeat Bewitching, but it was not difficult to defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang do this, Bloody Rose's eyes showed a touch of joy. What she wanted was for Bailey Hongzhuang to do this. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang died in the arena, then all these problems would not exist. Whoever can defeat her, my promise is still effective. With Bloody Rose's words, a touch of passion flashed in the eyes of the practitioners present again. Previously, they were really frightened by Bewitching's strength. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength could not be as strong as Bewitching's. Defeating Bailey Hongzhuang was much easier than defeating Bewitching. As for killing Bailey Hongzhuang, such a great beauty, if they really wanted to kill her, they really couldn't bear it. Perhaps he could even take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang in this arena. With such a stunning beauty, as long as he could take advantage of her, it would be a great joy. Although Bewitching was very strong, other than the arena, no one was allowed to fight in the Bloodchi Tower, so they didn't need to worry. Hence, when the crowd saw Bailey Hongzhuang walk up to the stage, they began to stir. In the blink of an eye, a man had already leaped onto the stage. "Beauty, I'll compete with you." The referee walked up to the ring and recorded the identities of Bailey Hongzhuang and the man. Soon, the betting odds were out. However, based on their battle records, the man's odds were lower than Bailey Hongzhuang's. This meant that the Bloodchi Tower was more optimistic about the man's strength. Seeing this, the cultivators present began to place their bets one after another. After what happened just now, they were even more interested in this match. Bewitching gave Heimu a look. Heimu immediately understood and immediately walked to the betting area. At this time, he naturally bet on the young madam winning. The crowd also realized that Heimu was Bewitching's follower. When they saw Heimu throw in a large amount of gold coins, the crowd's expression changed. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang not only had an extraordinary bearing and great strength, but their financial resources were also very shocking. This amount was already considered a huge bet in the Bloodchi Tower. After placing his bet, Heimu returned to Bewitching's side, and the two of them sat down in the spectators' stand. Chapter 1060. The female attendants on the second floor of the Bloodchi Tower had already regarded Bewitching as their Prince Charming. This man was simply every woman's Prince Charming. In a moment, the group of women had already made Bailey Hongzhuang their new target, just as Bailey Hongzhuang had said. So what if there were so many men here who adored her? It would be better to capture Bewitching alone. This was because Bewitching alone was more important than all the men present. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man in front of her. The man was about 23 years old and had a perfectly round body, which made him look even shorter than he already was. He stood there like a winter melon, but his narrow eyes flickered with a shrewd and lecherous light. At this moment, he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an unbridled gaze, obviously intending to take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang in this competition. Of course, this man was not the only one who had such thoughts. Many of the men present had the same thought. If they could take advantage of this competition to get close to Bailey Hongzhuang, it would be a great joy for them. Noticing the lecherous light in his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with disgust. She hated this kind of gaze the most. It made her feel uncomfortable from the bottom of her heart. Let the competition begin. Following the referee's command, Bailey Hongzhuang and the man immediately got into position. Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to waste too much time with the man. She wanted to end this battle quickly. Hence, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flew over and did not give the man any time to think. She suddenly attacked. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did not take out the colored glazed sword. Yesterday's battle with the 4 bronze men in the trial had given her some insights. She could take advantage of today's opportunity to integrate her insights. This was one of the great benefits of the Bloodground Abyss. In this place, there was no need to worry about not having opponents. When a man saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to engage in close combat with him, the excitement in his eyes became even more intense. This was what he was looking forward to the most. When the men present saw Bailey Hongzhuang's decision, their hearts were filled with envy. If they had known that there would be such an opportunity, they would have rushed up first. Now, this fatty had actually taken advantage of them. Bloody Rose's lips raised a sneer, as if she was mocking Bailey Hongzhuang's behavior. Bailey Hongzhuang had pretended to be aloof before, but now she actually used such a method to fight. Wasn't this equivalent to slapping her own face? Bloody Rose turned around and wanted to know what kind of expression Bewitching would have after seeing such a situation. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang's current approach was suspicious of ambiguity. However, Bloody Rose looked at Bewitching's indifferent appearance, as if Bailey Hongzhuang's approach had not exceeded his expectations at all. Thinking of this, Bloody Rose could not help but frown. It was reasonable to say that any man who saw this scene would not be able to bear it. The next second, Bloody Rose suddenly got up and walked to Bewitching's side and sat down. There were many cultivators near the stands, but because of Bewitching's previous display of strength, no one dared to approach. Therefore, the position next to Bewitching was empty. Chapter 1061. Feeling Bewitching's disregard, Bloody Rose's expression did not change, which was not beyond her expectation. Your wife doesn't seem to be so pure. Bloody Rose spoke slowly, but her eyes were constantly looking at Bewitching, wanting to know Bewitching's thoughts. Bewitching turned his eyes and looked at Bloody Rose beside him. His handsome chin, which was as sharp as a knife, showed a cold and hard arc, and the words he said were even colder and more heartless. "Stay away from me." As soon as the words came out, Bloody Rose's face was stiff for a moment. She did not expect Bewitching to speak so coldly and impolitely. "Do you think it's not good for me?" Bloody Rose asked tentatively. According to her understanding over the years, men should like her amorous feelings. Why was the man in front of her not interested in her at all? "My wife is not someone you can compare with. Get out." Bewitching's voice was cold, with warning and no doubt. With Bewitching's voice falling, Bloody Rose only felt that her whole body was shrouded by a kind of pressure, and she was so scared that she could not move. This man's momentum was really amazing. The most important thing was that the man showed disgust and decisiveness, which deeply hurt her heart. It was obvious that other women could not get into his heart except Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, Bloody Rose could not help but feel jealous and disappointed. But in the face of Bewitching's overbearing and decisive words, she did not dare to continue to stay here. Looking at Bewitching's indifferent and decisive eyes, she had no doubt that if she continued to stand here, Bewitching would never be polite to her. Bloody Rose stood up awkwardly and returned to her previous place. She was just not reconciled. It was rare for her to see a man who could make her surrender over the years, but this man did not like her at all. After seeing that Bloody Rose failed to seduce Bewitching one after another, people's expressions changed a little. However, in the eyes of more people, Bloody Rose was indeed not worthy of Bewitching. Blackwood looked at Bloody Rose, who was leaving. There was a trace of mockery in his eyes. A woman like her wouldn't even have the chance to talk to the young lord normally. Now, she actually wanted to be the young lord's woman. How ridiculous! On the stage, Bailey Hongzhuang was already fighting with the man at lightning speed. With yesterday's enlightenment, she was able to fight with the man much more smoothly today. The man's cultivation was also at the 4th level of the Red Realm, so it was not difficult for her. Even without using any martial skills, Bailey Hongzhuang dealt with them extremely quickly. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and grabbed the man's hand. She pulled hard and the man's hand was dislocated. The man turned sideways and tried to escape from Bailey Hongzhuang's control. However, he did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would directly chop him in the neck. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang was merciless. With a chop, the man fell heavily to the ground and fainted immediately. Everyone thought that the man could take advantage of this opportunity to take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would make the man have no chance to take advantage of her at all. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang's attack was extremely neat, and her close combat ability was obviously excellent. Bailey Hongzhuang wins. Chapter 1062. After the referee announced the result, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile as she looked at Di Beichen. Di Beichen nodded to Bailey Hongzhuang with appreciation in his eyes. He could feel the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang after she came to the Bloodland Abyss. Her progress was very good. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's progress, he was also very pleased. His woman would become stronger little by little. After everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang defeated the cultivator at the 4th level of the Red Realm so easily, there was a touch of surprise in their eyes. They already knew yesterday that Bailey Hongzhuang defeated Xiong Kai at the 6th level of the Red Realm, but they did not take it seriously. Because even if the cultivation was high, the strength was not necessarily strong. They were able to reach the 2nd floor of the Bloodchi Tower and had experienced a lot of competitions. Such examples were not unheard of. On the contrary, there were many. It was precisely because of this that when they heard the news, they only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's opponent was too weak, but they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was too strong. At this moment, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang winning so easily, they felt that their previous ideas might be a little wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang was not very weak. Bloody Rose's face was also a little ugly. What she wanted to see was Bailey Hongzhuang being defeated and rolling down the ring. It would be best if Bailey Hongzhuang died directly in the ring. However, things did not go as she wished. Bailey Hongzhuang won. After winning a game, Bailey Hongzhuang did not directly go down the ring, but continued to say, "Who's next?" Since others said that she was arrogant, she would be arrogant all the way here. Arrogance was never a problem. The problem was that she dared to be arrogant without strength. Obviously, she was not such a person. In the Bloodland Abyss, there were many arrogant cultivators. Anyone who was not arrogant could go up and compete with them. Similarly, she did not care about others saying that she was arrogant. On the contrary, this could save her a lot of trouble. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang continue to challenge, everyone could not help but think of Bailey Hongzhuang's action on the 1st floor of the Bloodchi Tower yesterday. Would she be preparing to do the same thing on the 2nd floor? Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't want to get 10 consecutive victories here, does she? She's too bold. She's a newcomer with a little strength. She really thinks she is great. Brother, go up and teach her a lesson. The strength is on the 2nd floor. The strength is strengths. Is death's door. No one was optimistic about Bailey Hongzhuang. The same thing could not be repeated. Bailey Hongzhuang's action was undoubtedly provoking them all. Bailey Hongzhuang took in the expressions of the audience, but in her heart, she didn't care at all. Young Master, does young Madam really plan to challenge 10 people in a row? He Mu was a little incredulous. This was not a simple matter. From the discussions of the surrounding cultivators, he vaguely understood that young Madam seemed to have done this yesterday. However, Di Beichen smiled faintly. Why not? His woman was the same as him. They both had a kind of arrogance in their hearts. This kind of arrogance might be hateful in the eyes of others, but it was not a bad thing for them. It was to protect this arrogance that they could keep moving forward. Chapter 1063. Seeing Di Beichen's confident smile, He Mu was stunned for a moment. He did not expect the young master to be so confident in his wife's strength. For a moment, He Mu could not help but recall the time when the young madam and the young master went out for training. the young madam cultivated desperately under the waterfall. Her perseverance and unyielding character possessed a strength that no other woman possessed. It seemed that he had underestimated the young madam. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang said that, another cultivator walked up to the ring. "I'll do it." Bailey Hongzhuang was immersed in her comprehension of close-range combat. She could not wait for someone to give her a chance to practice. That cultivator from before was too weak. He was no match for her at all. Now that she saw another cultivator walking up to the ring, she was very excited. The referee registered the information of the two people very quickly, and the odds were also quickly announced. Now that the Bloodchi Tower had a new evaluation of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, Bailey Hongzhuang's odds had decreased a lot. It was even lower than the cultivator's odds. The originally confident man's face turned ugly when he found out about the odds that the Bloodchi Tower had arranged for him. He did not expect the Bloodchi Tower to suddenly increase their evaluation of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. Did this mean that the Bloodchi Tower thought that he would lose to a fledgling woman? Thinking of this, the man's eyes turned gloomy. However, the Bloodchi Tower was too powerful. He naturally did not dare to be dissatisfied with the Bloodchi Tower. Immediately, the man transferred all his anger to Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the match had not started yet, he had already been slapped in the face. "Aha! Xue Huatian is usually a very arrogant person. I didn't expect the odds to be so high. What a joke. Isn't it obvious? The Bloodchi Tower thinks that Xue Huatian's strength is inferior to Bailey Hongzhuang. I've seen this guy fight before. He's not very strong. I'm afraid there's nothing to see in this match. Bailey Hongzhuang is going to win 2 matches in a row." Hearing the mocking words from below the stage, Xue Huatian's eyes became even gloomier. He secretly swore that he would use his fists to prove his strength. Bailey Hongzhuang also felt that the man in front of her was filled with endless hatred towards her. Her beautiful and refined face was indifferent and elegant. Even in the face of such hostile gazes, her eyes remained calm. "Begin." As soon as the referee spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have changed into another person. She was no longer as calm as before. Instead, she attacked as fast as lightning. Bang! It was just a simple collision, but Xue Huatian couldn't help but take 2 steps back. A hint of surprise appeared on his face. He had never placed Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes. Now that they had exchanged blows, he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's power was actually so terrifying. Previously, when he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang fighting against others, he had thought that her opponents were too weak and did not have any power at all. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's power would be so abnormal. Forget about a woman. Even a man of the same level of cultivation would not be able to wield such power. However, Bailey Hongzhuang completely ignored the shock in the man's heart. Her hands circled around like agile snakes. Her fingers, hands, elbows, knees, and legs all became her weapons. She attacked her opponent fiercely and violently. Chapter 1064. When Heimu saw Bailey Hongzhuang's clean and efficient attack, a look of amazement surfaced in his eyes. After not seeing her for a while, the young mistress's improvement in strength was truly shocking. She was on a completely different level from before. Bang! Following Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful side kick, Xue Huatian was directly kicked out of the arena by Bailey Hongzhuang. Xue Huatian fell heavily to the ground. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's kick was very heavy, Xue Huatian's injuries were not very serious. He subconsciously wanted to stand up, but being kicked out of the arena by Bailey Hongzhuang was even more humiliating than being killed. Xue Huatian felt that it was difficult to face the crowd's mocking gazes. Thinking of this, Xue Huatian simply pretended to faint. As long as he left the Bloodchi Tower now, he believed that everyone would gradually forget about this matter when he came back a few days later. In the arena, Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Xue Huatian had directly fainted and frowned slightly. Based on the situation of her attack just now, Xue Huatian should not have fainted. With a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Xue Huatian's slightly trembling eyelids and immediately understood. She did not expect Xue Huatian to be so thin-skinned. He was so arrogant before, but now he was actually pretending to be dead. Bailey Hongzhuang wins. The referee's voice rang out again. This time, the Bloodchi Tower finally made a correct assessment of strength. When the cultivators present saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had won again, their expressions changed again. I told you that trash like Shui Huatian is no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. It's normal for him to lose. It's a good thing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not kill him. Shui Huatian and his opponent only fainted. As soon as this was said, the crowd remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang only wanted to defeat her opponent and did not want to kill them, just like yesterday on the first floor. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently as her gaze fell upon the spectator's stand. Beads of sweat appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's fair and smooth forehead, but her eyes revealed a carefree and satisfied smile. That round of close combat earlier, she expended quite a bit of strength. But the consumption of essence energy was very small. A cultivator's endurance was also a part of their strength. In her previous life, she had undergone endurance training. This was because, in times of danger, every bit of endurance increased the chances of survival. The strength of this body was much stronger than when she first crossed over, but there was still a big gap between it and her previous life. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's sweaty eyes. Her fair and perfect face was flushed red from the 2 rounds of competition, making her look extremely sweet and alluring. Bailey Hongzhuang has gone through 2 rounds of battle in a row. She's exhausted. Now's the best time to go up and fight. The crowd's eyes lit up. They could judge Bailey Hongzhuang's current state from her expression. The later she went up, the higher their chances of success. Suddenly, another cultivator leaped up. He could not miss such a good opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the cultivator who had appeared before her again. Her bright, pitch-black eyes surged with battle intent, and the smile on her lips widened. She had not fought to her heart's content in a long time. Chapter 1065. Young Master, will young madam run out of stamina? Heimu probed. A woman's stamina could not be compared to a man's. Moreover, young madam had been fighting in close combat all this while. Her stamina was depleted very quickly. Beichen's noble and handsome face rippled with a faint smile. Those dark and deep eyes were filled with a wise and steady light. She knows what she's doing. From a situation of Bailey Hongzhuang's battle, he already understood Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. Since they had come to the Bloodchi Tower to train, then naturally, Bailey Hongzhuang could train however she wanted. His wife had always been intelligent. She clearly knew where her flaws were and how to improve her cultivation. On this point, if he was of the same age as Bailey Hongzhuang, he would feel ashamed of his inferiority. Bailey Hongzhuang's comprehension and understanding of her own abilities were extremely shocking. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's continuous outburst of battle power, the cultivators on the spectator stand had already changed from their initial denial to doubt, astonishment, and finally, disbelief and even numbness. When Bailey Hongzhuang fought continuously for the 5th round, the crowd realized that Bailey Hongzhuang, who had been as swift as lightning, had slowed down. Obviously, she was running out of stamina. After the 5th cultivator was defeated, the 6th cultivator hurriedly walked up, afraid that he would miss this excellent opportunity. However, the following situation did not proceed in the direction that the crowd had expected. Because after Bailey Hongzhuang realized that she was running out of stamina, she no longer used close combat. Instead, she started to use her elemental energy to collide. After Bailey Hongzhuang displayed her skills, the crowd then reacted. After fighting continuously for 5 rounds, Bailey Hongzhuang's elemental energy was not depleted at all. At the thought of this, everyone was shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. This woman's strength and endurance were truly abnormal. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Beichen's perfect chin, which was as sharp as a knife, was slightly raised, and there was an arc of understanding. When Darkwood saw the smile on Beichen's face, his heart was filled with joy. Ever since he met the young madam, the young master had been smiling a lot more. Of course, what he said was a sincere smile. He had been by the young master's side for many years and knew the young master very well. Although the young lord would usually smile, that smile never reached his eyes. The young lord was only truly happy when he was with the young lord's wife. Now, it seemed that the young madam's strength was as abnormal as the young master's. Even though there was still a gap between the two of them, judging from the young madam's reckless momentum, her strength would probably increase very quickly. Thinking of this, Mu was sincerely happy for the young master. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang victory! When the referee announced Bailey Hongzhuang's victory for the 10th time, the crowd's expression had completely changed. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang could complete a 10-match winning streak on the second floor of the Blood-Chi Tower. This was too abnormal. Bloody Rose's face turned pale. Bailey Hongzhuang had slapped her face with her strength. A 10-match winning streak was very rare in the history of the Blood-Chi Tower. When she thought of what she had said before, she felt as if she had become a complete joke. Chapter 1066. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Di Beichen's side and sat down. Her beautiful face was filled with an elegant smile. "I've been waiting for a long time." Di Beichen smiled faintly. "No matter how long I've been waiting for you, it's not too long. Your speed is already very fast." Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. Now, Di Beichen's words were even more pleasant to listen to. "You must be very tired from the battle just now. Why don't you take a rest and come back later?" The low and sexy voice was filled with concern and pity. The strength of the practitioners on the second floor of the Blood-Chi Tower was indeed much stronger than the practitioners on the first floor. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang would have to spend more energy to deal with them. The second floor of the Blood-Chi Tower was also more difficult than the first floor. It was not suitable for her to challenge it in her current state. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Okay. She understood Di Beichen's concern. She also knew that if she challenged the second floor in her current state, she would most likely fail. It was better to adjust her condition and come back later. Mu immediately went to the betting area to collect their winnings. This time, they really earned a lot. When the cultivators and the spectator stands saw Mu's actions, they were envious. That was a huge sum of money. If I had known, I would have kept betting that Bailey Hongzhuang would win. How much would I have won then? With hindsight, what's the use of saying this now? I don't know where Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu came from. Their strength is really abnormal. Everyone sighed. There were many strong practitioners in the Blood-Chi Tower, but Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were obviously the most abnormal of the abnormal, because the two of them were not ordinary young people. After Mu returned, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen stood up and walked out of the Blood-Chi Tower. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Baisher's fur. Speaking of which, Baisher's fur was really good to the touch. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang cultivated in the Blood-Chi Tower every day. After Mu came to the Blood-Chi Tower, he also followed Di Beichen to improve his strength. Mu's strength was not weak, but the Blood-Chi Tower was also a good place for him to cultivate. However, the task of preparing meals every day had now fallen on Mu. After learning that Bailey Hongzhuang had 3 gluttonous beasties, Mu was also surprised. He had always known that a practitioner could contract with a contract beast, but he had never heard of several contract beast contract. In his eyes, the Beichun and Mu. In his eyes, the young master and Beichun was not ordinary people. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, Mu was undoubtedly the most obedient and the easiest to bully. Therefore, the 3 beasts were extremely happy with the arrival of Mu. They let Mu prepare delicious food for them all day long. Kanglin College. After Xia Jiqing finished her cultivation, her beautiful face was covered with a touch of longing. It has been 3 months since I separated from Hongzhuang. Until now, Hongzhuang has not come back. We have not received any news. I don't know when she will come back. Hongzhuang went with Di Beichen to gain experience. I believe that Di Beichen will take good care of her. Don't worry, Zhang Yinfeng said slowly. Her white and bright face also showed a look of longing. After not seeing her for 3 months, she really missed Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 1067. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, Zhang Yinfeng nodded slightly. Xia Jiqing and Bailey Hongzhuang had always been very good friends. Since the two came to Kanglan College, their relationship had always been very good. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had been away for so long, it was normal for Xia Jiqing to miss Bailey Hongzhuang. Not to mention Xia Jiqing, she also hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could come back as soon as possible. Even if she had some misunderstandings with Bailey Hongzhuang, after experiencing so many things, she only had admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. It shouldn't take long for her to come back. Zhang Yinfeng comforted. She should come back. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a touch of worry. With Di Beichen's identity, Bailey Hongzhuang had become his wife. Her identity was naturally not ordinary. If Bailey Hongzhuang did not return to Kanglan College, then she really did not know what to do. Hearing the worry in Xia Jiqing's words, Zhang Yinfeng chuckled. You can rest assured, Hongzhuang said before that she will come back, so she will definitely come back. How could she not come back? Looking at Zhang Yunfeng's natural appearance, Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bright light. Right, I must be thinking too much. Zhang Yunfeng patted Xia Jiqing's shoulder and smiled. Yes, you must be thinking too much. Xia Jiqing showed a smile. From the first time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she and Bailey Hongzhuang were very congenial. The time they spent together was not very long, but she regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a real sister. She only hoped that they could continue to cultivate together in the future. At the thought of this, Xia Jiqing's expression showed a trace of determination. She must work hard to close the distance between her and Bailey Hongzhuang. Only in this way could they cultivate together in the future and progress together. Otherwise, when the gap between them was too big, even if Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to improve together with her, she could only be a burden. Yinfeng, I'm going to cultivate. Xia Jiqing's lips curved into a bright smile, and she said firmly. Looking at the brilliance on Xia Jiqing's pretty face, Zhang Yinfeng couldn't help but sigh. Since Bailey Hongzhuang left, Xia Jiqing had been particularly diligent in her cultivation. It was really like what Bailey Hongzhuang said when she left. She was constantly working hard, just waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to see her progress. Speaking of which, Xia Jiqing's crazy cultivation also stimulated another person. That was Bai Junyu. Everyone knew that Bai Junyu liked Xia Jiqing. However, although Bai Junyu was usually very talkative, he was shy in front of Xia Jiqing. He couldn't confess at all. Although everyone was anxious for Bai Junyu, they couldn't help it. After all, this kind of thing needed to be said by the person involved. They could only help to create an opportunity for Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing to be together. When Bai Junyu saw Xia Jiqing cultivating so hard, he naturally didn't dare to fall behind. After all, if his cultivation was surpassed by Xia Jiqing, then he wouldn't be qualified to catch up with Xia Jiqing. Therefore, everyone only saw that Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were both desperately cultivating. The degree of hard work made people ashamed. Lu Huayan and the two mentors were also very surprised when they saw Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing cultivating so hard, but they were more happy. This time, the inter-school competition made them have too many emotions and understand the gap between the students. Chapter 1068. Bailey Hongzhuang had made a name for herself in the Bloodground Abyss. She had challenged 10 cultivators in the first 3 levels of the Blood Chi Tower and won 10 consecutive victories. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there were very few people who could achieve such a feat. Not only that, but Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance and temperament were also superb, which was one of the reasons why she was famous. Since Di Beichen stood up for Bailey Hongzhuang on the 2nd level of the Blood Chi Tower, everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a celestial couple, which was really enviable. When the two of them first came to the Bloodground Abyss, many men and women wanted to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, but after being taught a lesson by the two of them, they gradually gave up. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was already very strong in the Blood Chi Tower. Not to mention Di Beichen's strength was even more unfathomable. It was really not easy to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. So many cultivators chose to give up. It was like this in the Bloodground Abyss. If one did not show absolute strength, everyone would think that one was easy to bully. But when one showed tyrannical strength, no one would dare to find trouble with them. The law of the jungle was the rule of survival in the blood-ground abyss. During this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was also rapidly improving. Here, she did not lack elixirs, opponents, and demonic beast meat to nourish her. It was really a good opportunity to improve her strength. The trial of the Blood Chi Tower was just like what Di Beichun had told Bailey Hongzhuang. The higher the level, the more difficult it was to pass the trial. Moreover, every 3 levels increased by a level. Bailey Hongzhuang fought with the bronze men in the first 3 rounds, but the number of bronze men doubled with each level, and it became more and more difficult for her to deal with them. However, as she continued to fight with the bronze men, her close combat ability continued to improve. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't just want to pass the trial. She wanted to use the trial to improve her fighting strength. In the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang had to be injured to pass the trial. Later on, she was able to defeat all the bronze men without being injured. She could feel that her combat experience had increased. Di Beichun also agreed with Bailey Hongzhuang's method of training. Compared to finding an opponent in the blood-refining tower, it was better to treat this trial as an opponent because the trial's level was higher and the rewards were greater. When Darkwood saw how persistent Bailey Hongzhuang was in her cultivation, he couldn't help but sigh. After following the young master for this period of time, he increasingly realized that the young master and young madam were a match made in heaven. This was because the young madam's determination and tenacity were exactly the same as the young master's. It was truly admirable. However, the only thing that made Darkwood a little helpless was the young madam's contract beasts. These 3 beasts had extraordinary appetites. Now, he had become a regular in the restaurant. He prepared meals for the young master, young madam, and the 3 beasts every day. After he realized that these 3 beasts had great appetites, he increased the amount of food he bought every day. In the end, he helplessly realized that the more he bought, the more the 3 beasts ate. Their small bodies were simply bottomless pits. No matter how much food they ate, they could eat it all. Most importantly, these 3 beasties loved to pester him on a daily basis, constantly giving him suggestions on what delicious food to buy today. Chapter 1069. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the 4th level of the trial, she immediately realized that the difficulty of the trial had increased by a lot. Not only that, the trial of the Blood Chi Tower was completely based on the strength of each cultivator. The stronger one was, the more difficult the trial would be. After knowing this, Bailey Hongzhuang gradually understood why the Blood Chi Tower was only suitable for cultivators of the Red Realm. This was because the stronger one was, the more difficult it would be to pass the trial after the difficulty had doubled. If the cultivator's cultivation was too low, they would not even be able to pass the first 3 rounds of the trial. They would not even have the chance to touch the later stages of the trial. During this period, Bailey Hongzhuang was also completely exhausted by the trial. She was like a cockroach that could not be killed. If she failed once, she would try a second time. If the second time did not work, she would try a 3rd time. Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to be tireless and never knew what discouragement was. She was always full of energy and drive. As Bailey Hongzhuang concentrated on the trial, Di Beichun and He Mu were also cultivating in the Bloodground Abyss. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the inn every day, Di Beichun and He Mu had already returned. Therefore, she did not know what kind of training ground was at the back of the Bloodground Abyss. However, from He Mu's faint tiredness, she knew that the training ground was not simple. Otherwise, with He Mu's strength, he would not be so tired. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang had already stayed in the Bloodground Abyss for 3 months. Her strength had also increased to the 8th level of the Red Realm. This improvement was undoubtedly very shocking. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was talented, if she had not worked so hard during this period of time, she would not have been able to increase 4 levels in one go. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi were very happy after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's rapid improvement. However, they no longer only remembered to eat every day. After all, they were their master's contracted beasts. Now that their master's strength had increased so much, they couldn't continue to slack off. Baisher's feeling was the most obvious. It had finally reached the 5th level of the Red Realm and caught up with its master, but now it was left behind by its master. It cannot be a useless contract beast. Not only her own progress, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt that Di Beichun and He Mu's strength was also improving. To them, the Bloodground Abyss was truly an excellent place. Young Master, the selection is about to begin. We can't stay in the Bloodground Abyss any longer. He Mu frowned. His fair and handsome face was filled with worry. Hearing this, Di Beichun's handsome face flashed with a trace of heaviness and gloom. Hongzhuang's trial is not over yet. Young Madam has already reached the 8th level. You've already delayed quite a bit of time for Young Madam's training, but Tiangang sect is also a part of this election competition. The sect master is not here, so this matter is left to the young master. The sect has urged us several times. If we don't go back, I'm afraid there will be changes. He Mu looked troubled. He understood that the young master had insisted on staying in the Bloodground Abyss to allow his wife to improve her strength. All this was as the young master had expected. His wife's progress was very fast, but it was too late now. Chapter 1070. However, Di Beichun and He Mu did not notice that outside the door, a furry ball quietly rolled by. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house, she saw the 3 beasties sitting in a row on the table, one hand supporting their cheeks as they waited for her. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang return, the 3 beasties' gazes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly, and a glimmer of light flashed through her deep eyes. She moved a chair and sat directly in front of the 3 beasties. "What's the matter? Speak." Once she saw the posture of these 3 beasties, she knew that something must have happened to them. After being together for so long, she understood the 3 beasties very well. "Master, when I went to look for He Mu earlier, I heard the conversation between He Mu and Di Beichun. It seems that Tiangang's sect has something that requires Di Beichun to return. However, Di Beichun has not returned because of your trial. Now, Tiangang's sect's urging is getting more and more urgent." As she spoke, Xiao Hei's gaze could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also slightly stunned for a moment. She did not know that there was such a thing. Di Beichun did not tell her, and she did not notice that there was anything wrong. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel a little vexed. During this period of time, she had put all her energy into the trial and neglected so many things. He Mu had always stood on Di Beichun and her side. Since He Mu said so, the matter at Tiangang's sect must be very urgent. Di Beichun had been accompanying her here for her trial. She actually did not notice that Di Beichun had done so many things for her. Although her trial was important, Tiangang's sect's matter was obviously more important. Besides, the trial had always been here. Even if she came back a few days later to participate in the trial, there was nothing wrong with it. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and walked towards the house next door. Di Beichun had done so many things for her. She couldn't let Di Beichun continue to do so for her. For Di Beichun, Tiangang Zone was a very meaningful existence. Di Beichun had always admired and respected the most. The sect master handed over Tiangang's sect to Di Beichun because he trusted Di Beichun. If Di Beichun had any regrets because of her, that would be the last thing she wanted. Di Beichun was devoted to her, and she also wanted Di Beichun to be happy. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang leave without saying a word, the 3 beasties quickly jumped off the table and followed behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Knock, knock. Bailey Hongzhuang knocked on the door, and Di Beichun quickly opened the door. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun's perfect and gentle face also revealed a refined and handsome smile. "Wife, you're back." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and walked into the house. However, just as the 3 beasties were about to follow in, they found that the door was closed. The 3 of them were blocked outside, just like that. Xiao Hei stared at the closed door with wide eyes. "We're blocked outside the house." Xiao Bai was also very puzzled. They usually followed behind Master. Why did Master leave them outside the door today? Do we do something to upset Master? Chapter 1071. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher looked at each other. They really didn't know how to answer Baisher's question. After thinking for a while, Xiao Bai reluctantly admitted, it's possible. When they were with Master, they were afraid that Master would despise them, so they ate in a more refined manner. Ever since He Mu came, they were unrestrained. Anyway, He Mu was the easiest to deal with and was obedient. Was this the price of being willful? However, the three little fellows had obviously guessed wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts were very simple. She wanted to communicate with Di Beichen properly. Now that their relationship had warmed up, Di Beichen really liked holding her in his arms. At this time, it would be fine if it was just the two of them, but the three little beasts were watching from behind. This was really a little embarrassing. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the house, Di Beichen also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. What was his wife thinking? Just as Di Beichen was about to ask, a fragrant wind suddenly blew over. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged him. Lowering his head to look at the person in his arms, Di Beichen's gaze softened. However, there was a trace of nervousness in his deep and charming eyes. Wife, what happened? Di Beichen wrapped his arms around Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist. His deep and magnetic voice was filled with worry. Could it be that his wife had been wronged outside today? Why are you so good to me? Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face was pressed against Di Beichen's chest. Her voice was muffled, a little depressed, and a little pained. Ever since she got together with Di Beichen had always been considerate of her and accommodated her. No matter when or where, Di Beichen was always meticulous with her. He helped her raise her cultivation level and helped her understand the mystery of her birth. In comparison, she did not treat Di Beichen as well. Hearing this, the corners of Di Beichen's mouth revealed a light smile, but his eyes became even more gentle and doting. You came here just to ask me why I'm so nice to you? Bailey Hongzhuang just hugged Di Beichen tightly and did not answer. You are my wife, the only woman that I, Di Beichen, love in my life. If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well? Di Beichen's smile was light, but his dark eyes were full of deep affection. Bailey Hongzhuang was his treasure, and he wanted to treat her well all the time. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly moist. She felt a little stifled, but deep in her eyes, there was a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. She was so lucky to meet him in the vast sea of people, fall in love with him, and become the love of his heart. It was only now that she understood how Di Beichen felt when he said that he was very grateful to Li Changxian. She was also grateful to Li Changxian now. If it were not for Li Changxian, they might not have interacted so much, and she would have missed such a perfect man. Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms only lowered her head and did not speak. He could not help but bend down a look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, what's wrong? However, when Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were vaguely moist, his heart ached. Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth and looked up at Di Beichen. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to speak, Di Beichen covered her red lips with his. She tossed and turned. Chapter 1072. When Di Beichen let go of Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks were flushed and her eyes were blurred. A pair of watery eyes stared at Di Beichen, making Di Beichen's heart melt into water. Di Beichen directly carried Bailey Hongzhuang to the side and sat down, while Bailey Hongzhuang also sat on Di Beichen's lap. Quietly hugging Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's handsome and gentle face rippled with a light and soft smile. Wife, don't breathe and think nonsense in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned on Di Beichen's chest and nodded slightly. When the blurred eyes returned to clarity, Bailey Hongzhuang sat up straight, and her beautiful face was tinged with a trace of seriousness. Tiangang's sect has something to ask you to go back. Di Beichen's dark and deep handsome eyes flashed with a faint light. You know, at this moment, Di Beichen understood why Hongzhuang had such a reaction just now. Since Tiangang's sect has something urgent to ask you to go back, then let's go back first. We can come back for this trial anytime. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes stared at Di Beichun, her beautiful face showing some helplessness. I know you are good to me, and I don't want to affect your business because of me. At first, Di Beichun left Tiangang's sect and came to Fengbo country because he had no choice. Now that Di Beichun's leg disease has been cured, he should have returned to Tiangang's sect long ago. Just because he wanted to be by her side, Di Beichun had never gone back. Although she had never heard any news about Tiangang's sect from Di Beichun and He Mu, she also knew that as the young lord of Tiangang's sect, Di Beichun had been outside for a long time without returning, which would definitely cause a lot of dissatisfaction. This time, the Tiangang sect does have something for me to return to, but I hope that you can complete the trial. Once you get the inheritance of the Blood Chi Tower, it will be of great help to you. Di Beichun's eyes darkened. There was a flicker of light in his deep eyes, but it was too obscure for Bailey Hongzhuang to see it clearly. It's okay. I'll have a chance in the future too. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She naturally wanted to obtain the inheritance of the Blood Chi Tower, but the last level of the trial was too difficult to break through. Although the first 8 levels were difficult, she was able to overcome them. However, facing the 9th level of the trial, she felt powerless. However, she still believed that she would be able to pass. For them now, it was obvious that Di Beichun's return to Tiangang's sect was the most important thing. As for other things, they could put them aside for the time being. It wouldn't be too late to return to the Bloodground Abyss after everything was done. After all, she was also full of curiosity about the other training ground in the Bloodground Abyss. She believed that she would definitely return to Tiangang's sect in the future. Don't you want to know why I'm returning to Tiangang's sect this time? Di Beichun asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes and blinked. If you want to tell me, I'm naturally willing to listen. The selection competition that happens once every 5 years is about to begin. Di Beichun's eyes were distant and deep, and his handsome face revealed a trace of complexity. Selection competition? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little puzzled. The internal selection competition of Tiangang's sect? Di Beichun shook his head slightly. Every sect needs fresh blood. Therefore, the selection competition that happens once every 5 years is a competition that every sect specially prepares to recruit young cultivators. Chapter 1073. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with wisdom. A sect's recruitment of new blood had always been a grand affair. Just a sect's recruitment of disciples was already a grand occasion. Furthermore, according to Di Beichun's words, this was a joint recruitment of all the sections. One could imagine the scale of this event. It could be called a grand occasion in the Shengxian continent. That's right, Di Beichun nodded. Every time a sect recruits a disciple, it's always very eye-catching. Any cultivator with strength would want to give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichun. You hope that I can complete the trial for the selection competition? She immediately understood. If all the outstanding cultivators in the Shengxian continent were to gather, then the competition in this selection competition would be extremely fierce. If one wanted to stand out, they would undoubtedly have to be the best of the younger generation. Di Beichun held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. According to my selfishness, I hope that you can directly enter the Tiangang sect with me. Following Di Beichun's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression became somewhat complicated. According to my understanding, the Tiangang sect has never directly recruited disciples. The Tiangang sect was famous in the Shengxian continent. To be able to become a disciple of the Tiangang sect was the dream of many cultivators. Once one became a disciple of the Tiangang sect, it was no different from a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. It could be said to bring honor to one's ancestors. Not only that, the cultivation resources in the Tiangang sect were far more abundant than outside. Cultivating in the Tiangang sect would allow one's strength to rise much faster than outside. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally wanted to go to the Tiangang sect, not only because of the abundant cultivation resources, but also because Di Beichun was the young sect master of the Tiangang sect. As long as she could stay in the Tiangang sect with Di Beichun, then many problems would be solved. Those who wanted to secretly scheme would have no chance to take advantage of it. However, she was even more aware that once she was directly arranged by Di Beichen to become a disciple of the Tiangang sect, it would undoubtedly attract the criticism of everyone. Those cultivators who coveted Di Beichen's position as the young master would definitely take this opportunity to attack Di Beichen, and Di Beichen, as the young master of Tiangang sect, would also end up with the title of covering up for his wife, unable to distinguish right from wrong. Most importantly, Han Shilling was also there. In front of her love rival, she had her own dignity. What she wanted was to stand upright in front of Di Beichen and not let anyone have a chance to attack her. More importantly, she wanted to prove to Han Shilling that she, Bailey Hongzhuang, was the right person for Di Beichen. Therefore, she couldn't just go in like this. Chapter 1074. You want to participate in this year's selection? Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his dark eyes flashing with a complicated light. Although it was a question, Di Beichen's tone was firm. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her phoenix eyes and stared at Di Beichen. She nodded slightly. I want to participate. Wife, you know that I'm not afraid of others talking behind my back. I only hope that you can safely stay by my side. Di Beichen's voice was deep and magnetic. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a sincere gaze. Over the years, he had been through a lot. He didn't care about ordinary words. Bailey Hongzhuang wrapped her arms around Di Beichen's neck. I understand, but I want to stand by your side. The next time I see Han Shilling, I will defeat her. Her deep and beautiful eyes were filled with a firm and decisive light. The last time Han Shilling saw her, she still remembered clearly the disdain she showed. No matter how proud Han Shilling was, her pride wasn't any less than Han Shilling's. The battle between her and Han Shilling would eventually come to an end. During this period of time, Han Shilling had done so many things behind her back. She clearly remembered it all. She had never been a generous person, especially to her enemies. The next time they met, she would crush Han Shilling's pride. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He understood Bailey Hongzhuang's determination. Therefore, he didn't try to persuade her anymore. In fact, he also understood that participating in the selection was a good experience for Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang obtained good results in the selection, then she would enter everyone's eyes. Because the selection had always been important, the first place of each selection would become famous in the Shengxian continent and become the target of all the sections. This choice was actually not wrong. No matter what kind of results Bailey Hongzhuang obtains, as long as she can legitimately enter Tiangang's zone, it is also a good thing. He didn't care about other people's attacks on him, but Tiangang's sect was also not peaceful. What he didn't want to see the most was Bailey Hongzhuang being attacked. If that happened, his heart would ache. I support your decision. Di Beichen smiled faintly. No matter what Bailey Hongzhuang did, he would support her. Thank you, Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shone with a trace of emotion. This was her persistence, and even more fortunately, Di Beichen had always supported her. There's no need for thanks between you and me. Di Beichen rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hand, but his eyes were filled with seriousness and seriousness. Wife, regarding the Lan family, I found some news. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly froze. Her beautiful face also had a moment of stagnation. What news? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent, but there was a trace of uncontrollable nervousness in the depths of her eyes. She had always been curious about her background, especially when she found out that her biological parents were forced to leave her in front of the general's estate. She was even more worried about her parents' safety. However, with the platform she had touched, it was simply not enough for her to have the opportunity to understand the Lan family. The Lan family was the true colossus of the Shengxian continent. Their foundation was stable and complicated. It was extremely difficult to understand them. The current her had yet to reach that level. Chapter 1075. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. So you're saying that as long as I drip my blood on this jade pendant, I'll know if I'm a descendant of the Lan family? Bailey Hongzhuang took out the jade pendant. Her pretty face was filled with astonishment. She didn't think that the Lan family would have such a miraculous method. It seems that the Lan family really didn't have a problem with their bloodline. Bewitching nodded. That's right. You can give it a try. All right, I'll give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She placed the jade pendant on the table and took out a sharp blade. She had bought this sharp blade when she had obtained the parchment scroll. Now that she had it in her hands, it would occasionally be of use. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's curious expression, Bewitching's deep, handsome eyes were filled with seriousness and depth. After asking around, he had a good understanding of the Lan family's secrets. However, this secret was far too heavy. If possible, he hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't really a descendant of the Lan family. Otherwise, Bailey Hongzhuang would have to bear too many burdens. When he thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's humiliated childhood, he found it hard to imagine how such a petite girl would bear all the burden of the Lan family's grievances. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't notice Bewitching's expression. She was completely focused on the jade pendant. At this point, other than Qin Yin's diary and this jade pendant, there was no other evidence to prove her identity. Therefore, she really wanted to know who her biological parents were. If she really was a descendant of the Lan family, then everything would become clear. The sharp blade cut Bailey Hongzhuang's finger, and a drop of blood immediately appeared. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even frown. She immediately dripped the drop of blood onto the jade pendant. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's eyes fell upon the jade pendant. They both wanted to know the final result. The jade pendant was snow white and almost transparent. It was exquisite and soft to the touch. Bailey Hongzhuang knew at first glance that this jade pendant was something good. However, she didn't expect it to have such an effect. Not long after the drop of blood had dripped onto the jade pendant, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching realized that the drop of blood had gradually seeped into the jade pendant. The originally sparkling and translucent jade pendant was stained red. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that Bewitching's judgment was right from the start. This jade pendant really was the Lan family's keepsake, and she really was a descendant of the Lan family. Bewitching's expression also changed. He didn't expect all of this to be true. Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the jade pendant. The change of this jade pendant was really magical. After it was stained with a little blood, she found that gradually the blood was also fading, and eventually it became the original white color. However, that drop of blood had turned into a bright red mark on the jade pendant, adding a trace of uniqueness. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around. Her exquisite and perfect face revealed a trace of emotion. It seems that I really am a member of the Lan family. In that case, Lan Yunxiao is my father. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang had already confirmed her identity. Aside from this, there was no other possibility. Bewitching nodded slightly, with a complicated expression. It seems that you really are a member of the Lan family. Chapter 1076. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang was very curious about her identity. Now that she had confirmed it, she was even more curious about the Lan family. She wanted to know why Lan Yunxiao and the Lan family had turned against each other, and why the Lan family had chased after them. She knew that everything would be very heavy, but no matter how heavy the truth was, she had to find out, because that was what she had to bear. Bewitching sank into silence. When he first learned of this news, even his heart was hard to conceal. He was afraid that after Hongzhuang learned of this, Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Bewitching. When she saw the obscure light in Bewitching's eyes, her expression changed. Bewitching, there are some things that I was born to bear. It's destined that I can't escape from them. I know that something very serious must have happened when Father took us away from the Lan family. No matter how hard it is to accept, I can bear it. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was heavy. After being with Bewitching for so long, she had long developed a tacit understanding with him. Just by looking at Bewitching's expression, she could guess some things. She was afraid that the reason behind this was more complicated than she thought, and more difficult to accept. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's resolute expression, Bewitching muttered to himself for a moment before nodding. Hongzhuang, I will tell you everything, but you must be mentally prepared. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, her voice gentle and calm. I'll be fine. Back then, The Lan family's patriarch, Lan Yangxiu, had two sons. The eldest, Lan Jingquang, had outstanding strength and a steady but treacherous personality. Lan Yinxiao was the youngest son that Lan Yangxiu had always been proud of. He had an extraordinary bearing and outstanding talent. Although Lan Jingquang's strength wasn't bad, he wasn't as well-liked as Lan Yinxiao. Not only that, Lan Yinxiao was already Lan Yangxiu's favorite successor, and the entire Lan family recognized him as the young master. Under these circumstances, Lan Jingquang was naturally unwilling to accept it. However, the entire family supported Lan Yinxiao, so he could only endure it. Later on, Lan Jingquang married Yumanlan, the direct descendant daughter of the Yu family, and gave birth to Lan Qingyan. And your father, Lan Yinxiao, married your mother, Mu Lingbing. Mu Lingbing didn't come from an illustrious family like Yumanlan, but she was also an outstanding cultivator. She was an outstanding disciple of Sun Moon Palace, and she gave birth to you. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly listened to Bewitching's narration. She had already guessed that what happened to her parents must have something to do with Lan Jingquang. However, she couldn't figure out what kind of method they used to deal with her. With Lan Yinxiao's reputation in the Lan family, it was reasonable to say that if something happened, everyone should stand on his side and support him. What kind of method did Lan Jingquang use to hurt her parents and make the entire family stand on his side, and her parents become enemies with the entire Lan family? The more Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it, the more complicated it all became. Wife, do you still remember your dantian shattering? Bewitching suddenly asked. Chapter 1077. Everyone was only curious about this matter in private. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that the possibility was not small. However, no one dared to confirm it. If it's true, then it's too terrifying. Back then, the emperor fell into the cycle of reincarnation because of the goddess. If we're facing such a storm because of the goddess, then wouldn't we have a war with the god realm? Why is that? Kusie asked in puzzlement. Are you stupid? The woman looked at him helplessly. The goddess is now married to the emperor. She is now our infernal queen. This means that the goddess also plans to be with the emperor. If the celestial realm is unwilling, the emperor will not let his wife go. Then, wouldn't a war be inevitable? Previously, because of the matter with the Fourth Highness, the flames of war had just been extinguished. I never expected that we would have to face the celestial realm again. The woman sighed faintly. Once they fought, it would be inevitable that people would be plunged into misery and suffering. If that's really the case, then the goddess is a femme fatale. Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance surfaced in Kusie's mind. Thinking about it carefully, she really had the qualifications to be a femme fatale. With such a beautiful face, how many men would be willing to give up everything for her? Previously, she felt that the fact that she and Kitsune could wait for the infernal emperor for so many years, no matter how she looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang would be dealt a blow by this relationship. This was because how long had she been with the infernal emperor? It was at most a few decades. How could it be compared to a relationship that had lasted more than 100 years? Furthermore, she came from a small place. No matter how she looked at it, she was not worthy of the emperor. This inferiority complex was unavoidable, but there was no such thing in her. It was as though she had never felt inferior before. It was as though all these emotions did not belong to her. She was so confident that it made them feel ashamed. How can a person from a lower plane have such powerful alchemy skills? Have you forgotten that the goddess is the #1 alchemist in the celestial realm? The woman's words woke everyone up. The infernal queen's alchemy skills were so exquisite that it shocked them. Logically speaking, it was impossible for the infernal queen to have such exquisite alchemy skills. Even if she was a genius, it was impossible for her to understand the infernal realm's alchemy skills in such a short period of time. However, if she was the goddess, then everything could be explained. Whether it was the divine world or the devil world, everyone was very clear about the goddess' alchemy skills. She was extremely outstanding. No matter whether it was her strength or alchemy skills, she was an existence that others could only look up to. Back then, when they found out that the demon emperor, who had never been attracted to women, had fallen in love with the goddess, their first reaction wasn't that the two of them weren't compatible at all. Instead, they felt that the two of them were too compatible. This was clearly an alliance between the strong and the strong. Why was it that after so many years, no woman could move the Devil Emperor's heart? Because those women were not worthy at all. The goddess was the most outstanding woman in the entire celestial realm. For so many years, she had been pure and had few desires. Yet, she had fallen in love with their infernal emperor. Everyone felt that this was a good combination. It was just that no one expected such a thing to happen. Kusie, who originally thought that it was impossible, could no longer refute. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang always so confident when she saw them? Why did Kitsune choose to give up after chatting with her once? Chapter 1078. Then, Lan Xingyin successfully integrated with the Rainbow Pearl. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichen. She had already heard from Di Beichen that Lan Xingyin was the representative of the Lan family. Now, Lan Xingyin was also one of the most outstanding cultivators in the entire Shangxian continent. According to this, she was almost certain of this result. However, she instinctively hoped that Lan Xingyin did not succeed in the integration. This truth was much more tragic than any of the truths she had imagined before, and it was impossible for her to accept. Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. From Bailey Hongzhuang's fluctuating gaze, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was not calm, just like how he found it hard to accept when he first found out about this truth. Moreover, this was something that Bailey Hongzhuang had to bear since she was born. That's right, Di Beichen said slowly. Yu Manlin's medical skills are also very good. However, this matter seemed to be the result of Yu Manlin's discussion with the Yu family. The Yu family was also involved in the plot to kill you. At that time, the Yu family had a godly doctor living in the Lan family. However, everyone in the Lan family only treated it as a visit and did not take it to heart. Presumably, that person was here to help Lan Xingyin integrate with the Rainbow Pearl. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. Her nails were already deeply embedded in her palms. Dark red blood gradually flowed out, and crescent-shaped marks appeared on her palms. However, in the face of such pain, Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to feel it. This was because the pain in her heart was far more intense than the pain in her hands. According to the information I received, Lan Xingyin also did not succeed in the integration. Other than a specific successor, no one else's Dantian could integrate with the Rainbow Pearl. Although the Yu family's medical skills are top-notch, they did not have a way to help Lan Xingyin integrate with the Rainbow Pearl. They only used a special method to integrate the Rainbow Pearl into Lan Xingyin's body. Even so, Lan Xingyin's cultivation talent is still amazing. It's not hard to imagine how great your cultivation talent would be with your Rainbow Dantian. Di Beichen couldn't hide the pain in his eyes. He had never thought that his beloved wife would suffer all this. Originally, she was supposed to be the genius young miss of the Lan family, an outstanding figure among the young cultivators of the entire Shangxian continent. She should have lived a life of luxury since she was young, enjoying the love of her family and the admiring gazes of young cultivators. However, because of this, Bailey Hongzhuang became a trash that everyone despised and ridiculed. She grew up in humiliation. Her status was no different from falling from heaven to hell. Wife, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's pale little face. He just wanted to hold Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. She looked so fragile, as if she could faint at any time. If he could, he really hoped that he could bear all of this in place of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, in the face of the past, he couldn't do anything. Compared to what Bailey Hongzhuang was going through at the moment, his words of comfort had no effect. Because in this kind of situation, other than the person involved who could understand the pain she was going through, no one else could. Chapter 1079. Blood gradually flowed from her palms, spreading along her fingers. However, the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang's clenched hands did not loosen at all. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang like this, Bewitching understood that the most important thing now was to tell Bailey Hongzhuang everything. The reason why he wanted Hongzhuang to obtain the inheritance was also because of Bailey Hongzhuang's background. This kind of enmity was as deep as the ocean. If she didn't take revenge, Hongzhuang wouldn't be happy for the rest of her life. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing couldn't accept the news. Lan Yinxiao was furious and directly attacked Lan Jing. As for Mu Lingbing, she was on the verge of collapse when she saw you on the verge of death in swaddling clothes. The entire Lan family was shaken because of this. No one dared to believe that Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan would do such a thing. The Lan family head, Lan Yangxiu, was furious and wanted to punish Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan. However, Lan Yinxiao demanded that they die. Unfortunately, the Yu family also came out to take a look. This was the plan that the Yu family and Lan Jingquang had discussed for a long time. They had already prepared everything. Although the Lan family's cultivators knew that Lan Jingquang had wronged you, Lan Xingyin had already obtained the power of the Rainbow Pearl. The Lan family couldn't give up on the inheritance. Lan Yinxiao demanded an eye for an eye and destroyed Lan Xingyin's dantian. The entire family stopped Lan Yinxiao, who then went on a killing spree and completely broke off relations with the Lan family. Lan Yinxiao's strength was outstanding in the entire Lan family. At that time, the Lan family also lost a group of cultivators. However, Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing were no match for them. Later on, although Lan Yangxiu urged Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing to stay, they couldn't stay any longer. Bailey Hongzhuang bit her lip. She could imagine how tragic that scene was. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing had always treated her like a treasure in their palms, treasuring her at all times. Her father was an extraordinary figure with an illustrious reputation in the entire Shengxian continent. Her mother was a rare beauty with a resounding reputation. As an outstanding disciple of the Sun Moon Palace, although she didn't have an illustrious family background, she was still an outstanding woman. When they saw their daughter, who was originally blessed by the ancestors of the Lan family, being treated in such a manner and being on the verge of death, their hearts collapsed and the hatred that seeped into their bones grew even stronger. Especially Lan Yinxiao. He was once the Lan family's family head and was the center of attention. However, after such a thing happened, he couldn't even get justice for his daughter. What kind of irony was this? She could understand why Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing had broken off all relations with the Lan family at the cost of their lives. If it wasn't for his existence, they would have killed Lan Jingquang and the others even if they had to risk their lives. However, they had to take her away because she was in what kind forbearance, the feeling falling from heaven to hell? And all of this was because of Lan Jingquang's family. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a burst of pain in her heart. She simply couldn't imagine the scene back then. The burning desire in her chest almost burned her to ashes. Chapter 1080. After Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing took you away, you were too young and your dantian was destroyed. This kind of injury was too serious for you to bear. Thus, Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing ran all over the place to save you. In the entire Shengxian continent, the Yu family is the most skilled in medicine. At that time, your parents could only swallow their anger and ask the Yu family for help when you were on the verge of death. With every sentence Beichun spoke, the unbearable feeling in his heart intensified. Compared to the treatment Bailey Hongzhuang received at the general's estate, Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing practically treated Bailey Hongzhuang as their lives. They clearly knew that the Yu family was involved in this matter, but for the sake of Bailey Hongzhuang, they were willing to throw away their dignity just so that Bailey Hongzhuang could live. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes gradually became moist. Lan Yinxiao, what kind of proud man was he? He actually begged his enemies to lend a helping hand for her sake. From what the Yu family had done to her, it was clear how vicious they were. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing had probably suffered all kinds of humiliation when they asked for help. The Yu family didn't agree. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke, her low and cold voice filled with forbearance and resentment. This kind of result was almost certain. If the Yu family really wanted to treat her, they would have done so when they obtained the rainbow pearl. Why would they wait until later? Bewitching nodded. The Yu family refused. Not only that, they began to hunt down your family to eliminate the root of the problem. You should know what happened after that. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her eyes. Her long and curly eyelashes were like palm leaf fans, leaving a shadow on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Her delicate face did not reveal any expression, but Di Beichun could feel the murderous aura emanating from Bailey Hongzhuang. It was a murderous aura that was so dense that it was shocking. Even he could not help but be moved when he sensed this murderous aura. From this, one could see how much Bailey Hongzhuang hated Lan Jingquang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang understood that it was precisely because of the Yu clan's cultivators that Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had been fleeing for their lives. In the end, they could only leave her at the entrance of the general's estate. Then, are my parents still alive? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice trembled. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had given up everything for her. Right now, what she wanted to know the most was whether they were still alive and whether they would have a chance to meet again. Di Beichun's face darkened. I'm not sure about that either. However, I got a clue that they might have been locked up by the Yu clan. The Yu clan? Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows, a trace of worry on her face. If they've fallen into the Yu clan's hands, they will definitely eliminate them completely. Di Beichun shook his head slightly. According to the information I received, Lan Jingquang would occasionally visit the Yu clan. I think it's very likely that he went there to mock Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. After all, he was suppressed by Lan Yunxiao for so many years. When he finally made a comeback, he would want to show off his achievements. How can you be so sure? Bailey Hongzhuang's brows were still tightly knitted. Although this was a possibility, it was not enough to confirm it. Chapter 1081. Following Di Beichun's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. She immediately understood. So Lan Jingquang has been humiliating my parents all these years. Bailey Hongzhuang became even more furious. She didn't expect Lan Jingquang to be so despicable as to do such a thing. She could imagine that if Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had fallen into Lan Jingquang's hands, Lan Jingquang would definitely humiliate and torture them in every possible way. This kind of despicable and treacherous fellow usually pretended to be kind, but behind the scenes, he did all sorts of evil things. It was obvious how sinister his heart was. Di Beichun hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. He had been afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to accept the truth. No one would be able to accept this kind of thing in a short period of time, especially for children like them who thought they had been abandoned. When Bailey Hongzhuang found out that her parents had done so under such helpless circumstances, one could imagine the fluctuations in her heart. Wife, no matter what, at least this proves that your parents are still alive. Di Beichun's voice was gentle and carried a calming comfort. At this time, he couldn't do anything other than comfort her. Feeling Di Beichun's warm embrace, the agitated Bailey Hongzhuang calmed down a little. Di Beichun always had the power to make her feel at ease. That's right, you're right. At least they're still alive. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This could be considered a fortune amidst misfortune. As long as they were still alive, they would be able to meet again one day. Beichun, do we have a way to save my parents? Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichun. She couldn't accept the fact that Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were suffering in the Yu clan. Every day of that kind of torture was torture, let alone the fact that they had been trapped in the Yu clan for so many years. Di Beichun placed his hands on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, his obsidian-like eyes gazing at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, I will do my best. In reality, he had wanted to save Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing ever since he had confirmed this news. However, the Yu clan had done this in secret. Lan Jingquang naturally knew that if this matter was discovered, he would have to bear the consequences. Very serious. Therefore, he and the Yu clan had sealed the news very tightly. He had spent a tremendous amount of effort just to obtain this information. He had even used some of his secret connections and many people to invite him over. Under these circumstances, he had succeeded in understanding more. However, it was too difficult to save Lan Yinxiao and Lan and Mu Lingbing. Not only it was to find out where the Yu clans had. The Yu clan was an extraordinary clan in the entire Shengxian continent. One could imagine how powerful their defenses were. A clan with such a background would have a few powerful old fellows overseeing it. As long as there were even the slightest clues, it was very likely that they would be discovered, not to mention saving them in this kind of situation. Although he wanted to save them, it wasn't easy to do so. The Yu clan's actions were too secretive. It would take some time to rescue them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. She also sobered up a little. Chapter 1082. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's mournful and desolate face, Di Beichen's heart ached. Ever since he had known Bailey Hongzhuang had always been strong. Nothing could defeat her. In Bailey Hongzhuang, he could always see a kind of strength that was unafraid and unafraid. No matter how difficult the trial was, she never knew what it meant to be discouraged or what it meant to give up. He had only seen Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face due to her serious injuries. But even at that moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips could still blossom into a strong smile, like a winter plum, strong and unyielding. However, at this moment, he saw her frailty, pain, and helplessness. After losing her strong appearance, after encountering such a situation, Bailey Hongzhuang's helplessness made his heart ache. She was only a 16-year-old girl, but she had to bear such a deep blood feud. Moreover, her enemies were the powerful Yu clan and Lan clan. He was so worried that Bailey Hongzhuang's small body wouldn't be able to take it. Di Beichun held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand tightly. "My wife, you have to believe me. I will definitely save them." His deep and dignified eyes flashed with a resolute light. Di Beichun secretly swore in his heart that no matter what, he would definitely do it. Even if it was very difficult, so difficult that it was hard for him to do it, he believed that there would always be a way out. As long as they thought of a way, as long as the Yu clan really did it, then they would definitely be able to think of a way to save them. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, looking at Di Beichun as if she was looking at her last life-saving straw. She was so powerless now. The time given to her was too short. She wasn't strong enough to face the Lan clan and Yu clan, those kind of colossal forces. Currently, she could only rely on Di Beichun's strength and rely on him to save her parents. "I believe in you." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She knew too many things today, making it hard for her to bear. Her entire mind was in a mess. "My wife, maybe the situation isn't as bad as we think. Your parents have been trapped in the Yu clan for so long, but they have been persevering all this time. This proves that they still have hope in their hearts. Moreover, other than going to the Yu clan a little enthusiastically, Lan Jingquang has been going there less and less. After all, he has been flaunting his strength for so long. He doesn't need to prove everything to your parents. Now, your parents should have a chance. As long as you give us a little more time, we will definitely be able to do it. No matter what, Hong Yu's, no matter what, he had to help her reunites to Yu family." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She also understood the meaning of Di Beichun. Now that 15 years had passed, she believed that Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan had shifted their attention to other places and relaxed their watch over her parents. She believed that although Lan Yunxiao and Yu Manlan had lost their freedom, they wouldn't suffer too much during this period. "We still have time. They will definitely wait for us to save them." Di Beichun emphasized. He wanted to pass on his strength to Bailey Hongzhuang. "My wife, you are their hope. Don't be discouraged." Chapter 1083. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichun. She could feel the power that Di Beichun was transmitting to her. She nodded heavily. "I understand." Her originally dark phoenix eyes were once again filled with a resplendent and resolute light. I will definitely take back everything that belongs to me with my own hands. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, had never had the habit of letting her things fall into the hands of others. Now that she knew everything, she was going to take it all back. Those fellows who stole her family's things and were still immensely pleased with themselves, she would personally let them taste the taste of pain. She wouldn't fall, and she couldn't fall. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing had given up everything for her, endured humiliation, and abandoned their dignity just so that she could live on. And now, it was time for her to work hard for her parents. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's small face brimming with stubbornness, and his nervous heart quietly relaxed a little. At least, Hongzhuang wasn't crushed by this enormous pressure. Pressure was often a good thing for cultivators. Only with pressure would there be motivation, and pressure was often the motivation for cultivators to move forward. The only difference was that the pressure was too great and too heavy. He thought about it for a long time before he told Hongzhuang about the cause and effect of the situation. He was worried that once Hongzhuang couldn't bear this pressure, she would completely collapse and never be able to recover from the setback. Cultivators like this could be found everywhere, and he had seen too many cultivators with weak wills. Similarly, once Bailey Hongzhuang could bear this pressure, she would become different. Her will would become even more tenacious, and no one would be able to destroy it. Fortunately, Hongzhuang had passed this hurdle, just as he had guessed. However, Hongzhuang's determination at that moment made his heart ache. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang again, his low and resolute voice ringing out from Bailey Hongzhuang's side. No matter what, I will always be by your side. He would always be by Hongzhuang's side and wouldn't let her bear this alone. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Di Beichen was the only person she could rely on now. Fortunately, he was by her side. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult for her to do this. You're tired. Have a good rest. Di Beichen said with concern as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's pale face. Have a good rest first. As for these things, you can think about them tomorrow. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand and was about to return to the room when he realized that his hand was wet. Upon closer inspection, Di Beichen realized that his hand was wet with blood. Di Beichen couldn't help but be startled when he realized this. He immediately grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand, only to realize that her fair and tender little hand was already covered in blood, and there were deep crescent-shaped scars on her palm. Di Beichen finally understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was using this method to vent her stress. Does it hurt? Di Beichen spread out Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand. Seeing her so sad, he felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. You can't control what happened back then. Don't punish yourself with other people's mistakes. They will definitely be punished. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't answer. She understood the meaning of Di Beichen's words, but it wasn't so easy to face it calmly. She needed time to calm down. As long as she was given some time to think, she would face it with strength. Chapter 1084. Di Beichen knew that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want to talk, so he didn't force her. He immediately pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to sit at the side and carefully and meticulously treated Bailey Hongzhuang's wound. After cleaning the bloodstains, Di Beichen saw how deep the wound was and how much strength Bailey Hongzhuang had used to pinch it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even frown from the beginning to the end, so he only noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and didn't notice her hands. After Di Beichen bandaged Bailey Hongzhuang's wound, he couldn't help but ask with concern, "Wife, you should rest in my room tonight." He was really worried about Bailey Hongzhuang when she was like this, and he only wanted to watch over her tonight. However, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "Beichen, don't worry, I'm fine. My mind is a little messy, and I want to calm down by myself." Hearing this, Di Beichen carefully sized up Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. When he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was natural and there wasn't any problem, he nodded and said, "All right, then you should have a good rest tonight." Di Beichen accompanied Bailey Hongzhuang out of the room, and the three beasts outside the door quickly hid after hearing their movements. Previously, they had been outside the door thinking of a way to get in. After all, they couldn't let their master leave them behind just like that. After hearing what Bewitching had to say, they fell into silence as they were thinking of ways to deal with the situation outside the house. Previously, they were very curious about their master's background, but no one would have thought that so many things had happened that year, and that their master's life had been completely rewritten. Xiao He and Xiao Bai knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had transmigrated from her previous life, but after obtaining the memories of this life's Bailey Hongzhuang, these two lives had become one, and there was no distinction between them. Their master had already died in her previous life, and she was now the continuation of Bailey Hongzhuang in this life. Therefore, everything that happened to Bailey Hongzhuang in this life was equivalent to their master's matters. This kind of background was really hard to accept. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang enter the room and watching the door close, Di Beichun stood at the door for a long time and only returned to the room after hearing that there was no movement inside. Some things could only be understood if the person involved had thought it through. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to face everything calmly, but to suddenly know so many things, her feelings must be very complicated, and she would need time to sort them out. He believed that when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang tomorrow, Bailey Hongzhuang would pull herself together. His wife was always so strong. After Di Beichun entered the house, the three beasts gathered together, but at this moment, the faces of the three beasts were flashing with anger. Damn Lan Jingquang's family. Their methods are too despicable. Little Black's face was filled with resentment. Just by listening from outside the door, he wanted to tear that family apart and skin them alive. The Yu family will die a horrible death, and they still want to be a medical family? Their actions are so despicable. Where is the benevolence of a doctor? Baisher's eyes were burning with anger. This kind of family should simply disappear from Shangxian continent. The Lan family is also not good people. After such a thing happened, they still protect Lan Jingquang's family. I'm so angry. Chapter 1085. The three beasties understood that what disappointed Lan Yunxiao the most wasn't Lan Jingquang or the Yu clan, but the Lan clan's attitude. He used to think that everyone in his family supported him, but after such a thing happened, he felt as if he had been betrayed by everyone. Just imagining this feeling of anger and heartache was unbearable, let alone Lan Yunxiao himself. Just like how their master felt, their consolation was useless. Only Bailey Hongzhuang could bear it. After learning about the penguins, the three beasties put away their playful attitude. Before this, they didn't have any sense of urgency. Their only enemy was Han Shieling, and they believed that their master would have no problem dealing with Han Shieling. Thus, they had been very relaxed during this period of time. Now that they knew that their master still had a blood feud, they felt a sense of nervousness. They didn't have time to continue fooling around. They had to become stronger with their master. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher looked at each other. They all understood what they were thinking. Clearly, they had the same idea. Let's go in and accompany master first. Be quiet and don't disturb her. Xiao He's eyes flickered with worry. At this time, they were really worried about leaving their master alone. They didn't want to disturb her and only wanted to accompany her quietly. This way, they could be at ease. Okay. Xiao Bai and Baisher nodded. The three beasties immediately tiptoed into the room. Bailey Hongzhuang lay on the bed, her gaze landing on the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. This matter had given her too much shock. Now that she thought about it carefully, she had two opponents, the Yu clan and the Lan clan. The Yu clan naturally didn't need to be mentioned. The reason why she and her parents had fallen to such a state was because of the Yu clan. If they hadn't relied on their superior medical skills, Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan wouldn't have dared to do this, because they had no way of extricating themselves. This so-called medical aristocratic family was truly vicious. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with extreme hatred. When she thought about how her parents had abandoned their pride and begged the Yu clan for her, how the Yu clan had humiliated and killed them in every possible way, her hatred towards the Yu clan had reached its peak. More than 10 years had passed, and the Yu clan was still enjoying a great reputation in the Shengxian continent. However, she would personally end all of this for the Yu clan, because they were not worthy. As for the Lan family, from the moment the Lan family chose to abandon their family, their original feelings were already gone. She didn't believe that the Lan family didn't know about the Yu family's pursuit of Lan Yinxiao. However, they hadn't done anything for so many years. Just from this point alone, it could be concluded that there was no longer any affection between them. As the head of an aristocratic family in her previous life, Bailey Hongzhuang knew very well that this was a common occurrence among aristocratic families. A cultivator who had lost his future, no matter how glorious he was in the past, would not be of any use in the future. For a clan, people with strength were the most important. Although many people could understand the situation of these aristocratic families, it was still somewhat lacking in humanity. If Lan Yinxiao didn't come from such a powerful cultivation family, the situation might have been different. Chapter 1086. Bailey Hongzhuang's mind was filled with thoughts. She was very clear on how powerful a cultivation aristocratic family was. If she wanted to overthrow them, she would have to have the ability to contend against them. This was undoubtedly difficult for the current her, but as long as she had the heart to do it, everything was possible. Even if there were countless dangers in front of her, she would ride the wind and break through all of them. Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing's current situation was extremely bad, but it was impossible for her to save them in a short period of time. Bewitching would help her think of a way. She also understood that even with Bewitching's ability, it wouldn't be easy for him to accomplish all of this. After all, although Bewitching was the young master of Tianyang sect, he wasn't the true sect master yet. Tianyang sect was on the same level as the Yu and Lan families. The Yu and Lan families were connected by marriage and stood on the same side. It was easy to imagine how difficult it would be for Bewitching to accomplish this. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly, but her eyes became increasingly resolute and bright. Now that things had reached this point, she had no other choice. She could only follow the most suitable path and walk down it step by step. She only hoped that her parents would be able to wait until the day she rescued them. While Bailey Hongzhuang was pondering, Bewitching didn't rest. He understood that Hongzhuang was most concerned about her parents' safety. As long as they could save the two, then Hongzhuang would be much more at ease. As for the matter of revenge, they still had time to do it. But the matter of rescuing Lan Yinxiao and Mu Lingbing had to be done as soon as possible. He would think of a way to save them. No matter what method it was, as long as it could be done, it would be the best result. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang woke up early. With the current situation, she had no reason to slack off. She had to pull herself together and become stronger as quickly as possible. When Bewitching saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was in high spirits. A trace of joy flashed through his eyes. "Wife," Bewitching called out softly. Last night, he had been worried about Hongzhuang. Fortunately, the situation was as he expected. Hongzhuang was like a bright little sun, always strong and full of strength. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her calm demeanor was the same as before, as if nothing had happened. "Beichun, I've decided to try the Blood Chi Tower again today. If I still don't succeed, we'll leave. What do you think?" Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with determination and confidence. She had already made up her mind. No matter what, she must obtain the inheritance of the Blood Chi Tower. Right now, she had no time to waste. She had to do her best. Only by increasing her strength would she be able to rescue her parents sooner. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's determined and resolute look, Bewitching's deep starry eyes revealed a complicated look. He then nodded. All right. Although the selection competition was urgent and he had delayed it for quite some time, he still hoped to accomplish what he wanted to do. Hearing Bewitching's reply, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile. "Then I'll go to the Blood Chi Tower first. I'll wait for you to come back." Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's back as she left, Bewitching knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was not feeling well either. She was just stubbornly refusing to show it on her face. Chapter 1087. Tiangang Sect. Big Brother D has been away from the sect for so long. We're still waiting for him to discuss the selection, but he hasn't returned yet. Han Shilling furrowed her brows. Her delicate and pretty face was filled with displeasure and dissatisfaction. She had not paid much attention when Bewitching had gone to Fongbo country. Based on Big Brother D's personality, it was impossible for him to take a fancy to anyone. The first 3 years had been peaceful. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly appear and the two of them would get married? Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared, the situation had changed completely. Big Brother D had never been close to any woman, but he had told everyone that Bailey Hongzhuang was his wife. Initially, she had not paid much attention to Bailey Hongzhuang. She had only thought that Big Brother D had been lonely in Fongbo country for too long and was now so close to a woman. As long as Big Brother D returned to Tiangang Sect, he would completely forget about Bailey Hongzhuang. However, ever since she had seen Bailey Hongzhuang with her own eyes, she had felt an indescribable sense of threat. As the proud daughter of Tiangang Sect, she had always been an idol in the hearts of women and the target of men's pursuit. She had never felt that she could not compare to anyone. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's outstanding appearance was simply stunning. For the first time, a sense of jealousy rose in her heart. That kind of appearance was enough to make any woman jealous. The most unacceptable thing was that she had been humiliated in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since she had been born, she had never been so humiliated. She had actually been taught a lesson by the master of the ruins in front of so many people. It could be said that it was a shame that she could not erase. Huangfu Hui and the others were not ordinary people either. Following their return, this news had gradually spread to other people's ears. This clearly had a significant impact on her reputation. Fortunately, this matter had not spread very widely. Ever since she had returned, she had been thinking of ways to find Big Brother D. Later on, when Big Brother D had finally returned, she had wanted to use this opportunity to cut off all contact between Big Brother D and Bailey Hongzhuang. Who would have thought that after Big Brother D returned, he would focus on handling matters and treat her even more coldly than before? In fact, she had always understood that although many people in the outside world said that she and Big Brother D were a couple, Big Brother D did not open his heart to her. However, she was not worried. This was because other than her, other women did not even have the chance to get close to Big Brother D. She had always believed that as long as she was given some time, Brother D would fall in love with her sooner or later. However, it seemed like it was too late now. Last time, Big Brother D couldn't wait to leave Tiangang Sect after dealing with the sect's affairs. Even her persuasion to stay was useless. His absence lasted for several months. Obviously, Big Brother D had gone to look for Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as she felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was a threat, she sent people to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so lucky to be able to escape under such circumstances? She was extremely disappointed. Most importantly, she did not know what kind of bewitching potion Bailey Hongzhuang had given Big Brother D to make him give his entire heart to her. In the past, Big Brother D had never said anything harsh to her. This time, he had laid his cards on the table for Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Big Brother D did not say it personally, Mu had always only listened to Big Brother D. Chapter 1088. Young Mistress, who exactly is Bailey Hongzhuang? Tao Tsongrong's eyes flashed with disbelief. She had been by Han Shilling's side since she was young. Her relationship with Han Shilling was just like the relationship between Mu and Bewitching. I just don't understand. A woman from a remote dynasty can actually make young Master D do such a crazy thing. It's really unbelievable. Tao Tsongrong could not believe it. Bewitching was the dream lover of all the female cultivators in Tiangang Sect. There were definitely many outstanding female cultivators in Tiangang Sect, but Bewitching had never been moved for so many years. Why did the situation change after he went out this time? She had always thought that young mistress was the best match for Nose-Drop Chin. Hearing this, Han Shiling's mouth evoked a mocking smile. What else can that woman do besides seducing D Dage with some foxy means? She did not believe that it was Big Brother D who fell in love with Bailey Hongzhuang first. It must be Bailey Hongzhuang who tried every possible way to seduce D Beichin. Tao Tsongrong opened her mouth wide, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. That Bailey Hongzhuang is actually so despicable. She's really despicable. She's not a good person to begin with. She thought that after hooking up with Big Brother D, she would have a meteoric rise. She didn't even check if she had the ability to fly up the branch and become a phoenix. Han Shiling's eyes were slightly cold. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, her relationship with Big Brother D was no longer the same as before. Last time, she had made a strange move. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang dared to come back with Big Brother D this time, she would definitely make Bailey Hongzhuang inconspicuous in Tiangang's sect. She did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would still have the face to continue staying here when all the elders accused Big Brother D of favoritism. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang was thick-skinned enough to stay here, she would become the target of ridicule of all the cultivators in Tiangang's sect. If Big Brother D protected her, it would only make everyone hate her even more. She was destined to pay the price for stepping into a place that did not belong to her without sufficient reason. Young mistress, we must not let Bailey Hongzhuang have her way. Tao Tsongrong's face was filled with anger. Originally, she thought that the woman that young Master D had taken a fancy to was extraordinary. She didn't expect that it was such a despicable and seductive woman. This kind of woman wasn't qualified to compete with young Miss for young Master D. That's natural. Han Shiling sneered. She can't beat me. Tao Tsongrong chuckled. She knew very well what kind of person her young miss was. All women would feel ashamed of their inferiority when they saw young Mississippi. Although Bailey Hongzhuang had used such despicable means to temporarily win young Master D's heart, she believed that it would not be long before young Master D understood who the real Phoenix was. Songrong, go and tell grandfather to urge Big Brother D. After all, the selection competition is about to begin. The other sects are all waiting for Big Brother D. Han Shiling's expression was calm. She had plenty of ways to get D Beichin away from Bailey Hongzhuang. Tao Tsongrong immediately understood and smiled. Don't worry, young mistress. I'll go and tell Great Elder immediately. After Tao Tsongrong left, a smug smile appeared on Han Shiling's cold and moving face. Bailey Hongzhuang had never been her opponent. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.